Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 on this Tuesday morning. There's no truth to the rumor that Julie Gunlock has now been deployed off of this program to join Marco Rubio in overseeing the renovations at the White House. Not true at all. She's still with us. Everybody just chill. Good morning, Julie. How are you feeling?
Good morning. Oh, stop. Don't bring it up.
All right.
I'm fine.
We had some tummy issues yesterday.
Yes.
I don't know. Why do you just tell me when we do our pre-show meeting? You should reach out when you're in the middle of a traumatic experience like that.
I was busy.
Well, I mean, give me a call during moments like that.
No, thanks.
Food poisoning is all behind you now, and you're good. You're
I'm
seizing
fine.
the day. All right, we'll move on.
Feeling a little thinner.
That's a great new diet program. Coming up at 7:05, John Reed will join us. He's running for lieutenant governor, and that race is a dead heat. 7:35, Byron York, Washington Examiner. And then at 8:05, Marianne Jensen, Prince William County mom, as she is trying to open up a new Turning Point USA chapter at her son's school, her child's school. I'm not sure what flavor of child that is, boy or girl. It's one of the two. That's how we roll here on this program.
I believe it's your son.
She's having quite a challenge there with the school, with the school district, with the school board, because she's trying to open up a Turning Point USA chapter there.
Yeah.
The kids want it, so obviously the teachers union standing against it, as well as their cohorts in the school board. The kids are all right, though. Did you see? We're going to talk about it later. I'm sorry. Welcome to the first segment of the show at 5 a.m., where my brain is still randomly going through all of the things we're going to talk about.
Yesterday, we were supposed to start with some very, serious political issue, and we started with Jennifer Gray's nose. So,
both of her noses, her current one and her original one.
Right. We tend to be a little over the place at 5
Did you see yesterday was the first day where expanded early in-person voting could occur in Virginia?
Yes.
Did you see the teenagers, high school students, greeting voters? It's so wonderful. Out in Loudoun County, they were at a polling place, and as voters were coming up, they were handing out flyers. They were volunteering, and they said, please vote for people who will keep boys out of the girls' locker room and keep girls out of the boys' locker room.
Yes. In other words, sort of return to sanity.
Yes. It was
these are from the kids who are forced by these sick adults to endure opposite sex kids coming into their bathrooms.
Right.
They are the ones who are being sacrificed here. And for them to stand there and say, look, could you please vote for some common sense? Right. Just brilliant.
And here's what's amazing about that, Julie. It's because it's like, oh, well, how do I know where each candidate stands? Oh, no, it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a partisan issue. One party is in favor of sanity and logic and keeping boys out of girls' rooms and girls out of boys' rooms. It was touch and go a few years ago. There were a few people in one party who still didn't quite understand the issue yet, or were naive, or actually didn't see it as the mess that it was. And the other party is still there. The other party still is
the other party and David French. But anyway,
Well, no, he's that party, isn't he?
You're right. He has just gone over to that party. But yes, just the optics of that, incredible. Of course, that probably, we'll have limited coverage of that for the media, but we're going to talk about it. And I just want to give a shout out to those kids, to those parents who, allowed their kids to stand up there and give those flyers out. Really important.
Well, and you should keep it up all through Election Day, because it's a very powerful message in every county of Northern Virginia. The kids are going to be all right also based on a new study that we've just seen that is astounding, remarkable. And like most medical studies, I believe it because it makes common sense. And I hate to say that. But for the last couple of decades, we have seen these studies that make no sense. And there's the science says to do this. And as a human being, and certainly as a parent, you often see that study and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And parents of our generation, raising our children, as we saw the peanut allergy and just nut allergy in general hysteria explode over the last 2.5 decades, I would say, which is the exact wheelhouse that we have raised our children. We were told to avoid nuts at all costs for infants and toddlers because they could go into an anaphylactic allergy shock syndrome. Their throat would close up and you would have a dead baby on your hands just because you wanted to give them peanut butter. I mean, it was that drastic what we would hear from pediatricians.
Oh,
right?
It was, I mean, if you get your kids, I mean, you had women that would, sort of scan a room to see if there was any peanut butter. I mean, mothers-in-law and mothers, grandmothers and grandmothers-in-law across the country were being told to rid their homes of any kind of nut. I was one of those moms. I was terrified of peanuts because, again, this recommendation was really intense between 2002 and 2008, and I had my first child in 2007, and it was the most intense then.
Yes.
And because of that, now the headline is go ahead.
The headline is that peanut allergies in children have now plummeted because they've got new advice. The advice that you got and that I got, I had 3 children in that same window that you just described, was from the American Pediatric Association, was at all costs avoid peanuts, keep peanuts out. Now, peanut allergies have declined 43% among children under 3 years old. The result is because of research showing that early exposure can help avoid allergies.
Yeah.
Which common sense-wise, and by the way, my parents and my in-laws, all people of another generation, the greatest generation or the boomers, they all said, what are you talking about? You expose them early and they'll build up a tolerance and they won't have an allergy at all. If you avoid this stuff, you're going to exacerbate the allergies.
And
that's
so
exactly
funny.
it.
It's so funny, Larry, too. My parents couldn't stand this kind of recommendation coming down. Yeah. And then there were several other things that it's actually the American Academy of Pediatrics.
American Academy.
They would come out with these recommendations and my parents would roll their eyes. And you started to see things in parenting like everyone walking around with handy wipes, right?
Right.
The
sanitizers.
And the spray sanitizer, right? And they would start to compare, some researchers, not within the academy, but some researchers start to compare kids on farms, who would do these farm chores, right? And they would get muddy and really dirty.
Manure,
And those kids were healthier. Amish kids, for instance, there's a whole group of kids that they would study. And it turned out keeping your kids super clean is not going to keep them healthier. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of reversals like this that really frustrate parents.
We'll get more into the details of this study and the new recommendations and how the whole peanut allergy hysteria might have been self-perpetuated by the scientific community and by good, thoughtful parents who were caught up in that hysteria. And I think you can read between the lines about some other scientific hysterias regarding our children that we're dealing with right now. All that coming up in a sec. A min.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
So as we dive deep into the results of this new study, resulting in about 40,000 children avoiding peanut allergy diagnoses now because they're now being exposed to the allergen instead of the advice we were given as parents from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Please remember in the back of your mind that this is the same group that is strong-arming parents to chemically and surgically alter their perfect children who were born without any physical flaws, telling them you need to change them because God made a mistake, they were born in the wrong body, and you must affirm their new gender identity no matter who planted that seed or where the origins came from. You're not supposed to delve into that. In fact, in many states, psychiatrists, psychologists, and pediatricians are forbidden by law to explore the origins of the gender dysphoria and try to, correct a child's perception that they are born in the wrong body and they must remove body parts to accommodate this new belief. The American Academy of Pediatrics has been fully on board with that. They're the ones who perpetuated the, well, do you want to have a transgender child who lives or a dead child on your hands because you didn't affirm their gender? That's who these people are, and the peanut allergy is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, here's another example. Let's think about what they did during COVID. They went right along. They did whatever they want, whatever Randy wanted. They were the foot soldiers of Randy Weingarten. Mm-hmm. They said, yes, schools should be absolutely, schools should be closed. What, Randy? Oh, yeah. Extend it more. Oh, I'm sorry. What, Randy? Yeah. Extend it more. They wanted kids masked indefinitely. These are the people. Do you remember that video of that 2-year-old sitting on the floor, screaming his head off as some headless
daycare
woman
worker,
is reaching down, constantly reapplying that mask, putting that mask over that baby. He's scratching at it, he's pulling at it, and that woman keeps reapplying that mask. That, my friend, was the American Academy of Pediatrics. This should be the last straw. These organizations have become nothing but an adjunct of the Democrat Party and of Randy Weingarten. All they do is, again, they are foot soldiers. They take orders. They do whatever Randy wants them to do.
Yeah. And you and I would look at this and say, wait a second, I'm looking at the data. Not one child under the age of 17 has died from COVID-19. Why are we doing this to two-year-olds? They're getting the virus. They're making it through. It's a miracle. We should, celebrate that. And instead, they're still forcing it out. And if we said that, we were censored, we were canceled, we were deplatformed, and we were told that we were Neanderthals who don't believe in science. Well, here's the story on peanut allergies. An estimated 40,000 children avoided peanut allergy diagnosis after the guidelines for when to expose kids to the food allergen changed, according to new research. The dramatic drop in childhood peanut allergies arrives a decade after a watershed study found that feeding peanut products to babies reduced their chances of developing an allergy by over 80%. For decades, parents were advised to avoid feeding common allergens. Now, I remember when that study came out, and there were plenty of people who were screaming, "No, don't believe it. This is junk science. We don't agree. You're going to have your children killed." But slowly but surely, the guidance was put forth, and parents felt more emboldened to expose their children to these peanuts. And now we see the results. For decades, as food allergy rates climbed, experts recommended that parents avoid exposing their infants to common allergens. But this landmark trial in 2015 found that feeding peanuts to babies could cut their chances of developing an allergy by over 80%. In 2017, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases formally recommended the early introduction. The new guidelines did not come from the Academy of Pediatrics. It took forever.
Yes.
This study now affirms that all of this was correct.
I want to make one thing clear. This is not relegated to the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association. I always like to call them also the body part organizations, American Lung Association, American Heart Association. A lot of these sort of institutions, we talk about this on this show. Other scholars talk about this, the failure of American institutions to be nonpartisan, to look at the science in a nonpartisan way. They have failed. Many of these organizations, again, they take their marching orders from whatever Democrat entity is in power, and they do their bidding. And we have seen this over and over again. It's not just COVID. It goes back years and years. And there's also these sort of like reversals that aren't necessarily political, but galling all the same. Some of our listeners might remember the word cholesterol. Okay. I mean, my poor father gave up eggs for like 20 years. He's, by the way, still talking about it. He's still angry that for 20 years he had egg white omelets. He's like, how can I get those yolks back? I sacrificed yolks for 20 years. I'll never forget. Okay, I got to be really quick. I'll never forget. My father ordered an egg white omelet. Listen to this. Listen to this, the fillings. He ordered an egg white omelet with mozzarella cheese and Italian sausage. And everybody around the table goes, "Hey, Dad, why don't you just order the egg yolks?" Okay, I think you're sort of missing the point here. So, that now, do you know what those medical organizations say about cholesterol? This is a quote, "It's not a nutrient of concern." Can you imagine that reversal? Can you imagine? They almost destroyed the egg industry, by the way. So anyway, this happens all the time. People are so tired of this. And this is why we have MAHA, okay?
That's right.
This is why.
That's right. You don't like Bobby Kennedy? You created Bobby Kennedy because of all of this. How did you resist with your dad, though, once the study was reversed and it was okay for him to have regular eggs? Did you say, well, Dad, I guess the yolk's on you? It's 5:24.
No, we didn't play with that. We didn't play with that on that.
I'm really, really sorry about it. 5:24.
Well, you remember that government shutdown? I'm sorry, that Democrat government shutdown. We have an update on that. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:36 on this Tuesday morning, the 21st day of October, and we're flying through this news cycle on now officially the second longest government shutdown in American history. Where's CNN's countdown clock? It's funny. I went back and watched a video of the time Obama put the barricades up around the World War II memorial to keep people out. They like delay because it's an open air memorial. You know, you could do nothing and just let people go and you see the memorial. But instead, you remember, they actually went out of their way and ordered the park police to put the barricades up around the memorial to keep people out during the government shutdown. So they spent more money than they should have during the shutdown so they could have the optics of keeping people out, right? That was in 2014, I want to say. And I was watching that video to remind myself of it, and I saw CNN was reporting, and in the corner of the screen, Julie, they had the government shutdown clock.
Oh, God.
You know,
right.
in
right.
red numbers, right? Because they were blaming
right.
Republicans. Have you noticed we're now officially in the second longest government shutdown in American history, and there's no clock. There's hardly any reporting on it.
That's right, because they don't want to remind people of who's responsible for this.
That's right. And it's undeniable who is responsible for this. It's the Democrats. And get this, The Hill published an article yesterday with a couple of Democrats finally breaking and speaking off the record, of course, you know, under cover of anonymity. Here's a little bit of that article. People are going to get hammered if they vote for the House passed bill to reopen the government and keep it funded through November 21st, said one Democrat senator who requested anonymity to talk candidly about their party. Let me just be clear here. When they say people are going to get hammered by their own voters, you see, the reason that he or she or them is anonymous here in this article is because they're terrified of their own voters. They're terrified of Democrat voters, and understandably, considering their violent streak lately. A second person familiar with the political dynamics within the Senate Democrat caucus, who spoke with The Hill ahead of the No Kings protests, said centrist senators are fearful of breaking with leaders while party activists are planning the anti-Trump rallies. Quote, "We would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine." The second person said, the reason that you have a government shutdown right now is that there is no leadership within the Democrat Party, or what little leadership there is, they're terrified. They're terrified of Bernie. They're terrified of AOC. They're terrified of Ilhan Omar. And by the way, I'm a little scared of them too. And they're terrified of their own base. They kept the government shut. Any pain that you are feeling right now because of this, it's not just the Democrats in the Senate. It's the voters as well who they are terrified of.
Yeah, I mean, you see the Democrats, I mean, they're not hiding anything. The base of the Democrats, these are the people who are making fun of Charlie Kirk's death during the No Kings debate. The signs, the Jay Jones saying he wants to put 2 bullets in the Virginia majority leader's head and watch his children die. These people are soulless. They're scary. And you know, it's interesting. I was talking to someone who is explaining to me how Loudoun County Democratic Party has been sort of taken over by this sort of radical left. And they actually said this word, all the normal Democrats have been pushed out. And I think we're really watching this now. I mean, a lot of people, for instance, people like me who came to Washington, you know, a long time ago, 25 years ago, right? I mean, I was friends with Democrats. We used to hang out together. We would debate. We would talk about the issues, and then we would be civilized afterwards and maybe go get a drink. That just doesn't happen anymore. And And that's largely because of the Democrats.
Many of the normal, sane Democrats actually have left. Many of them have become Republicans. The sad thing is the sane, normal Democrats have been replaced by George Conway. So
yes.
I mean, that's the creepy thing is that some of their more radical voices are actually people who called themselves Republicans for years.
Yes.
But I can tell you that they're losing the narrative here. Check this out. Bernie Sanders on The View. Sarah Haynes makes a really salient political point. You know, if Democrats in Congress went without their paychecks during the shutdown, that would go a long way for the optics and the politics here. Listen to Bernie Sanders' response.
It's easier for the politicians in D.C. to go away from each other and say, we will win this way, while people are losing their paychecks. If Congress just said, we're not going to take our paychecks till we figure this out, that would be a noble step in the right direction, I would say.
That's not everybody can afford to do. You got some young people there with kids.
Neither can the people that aren't getting paid, though.
What?
That was literally his answer. Yeah, you make a good point, but you know, some of the senators and congressmen, they can't afford to go without a paycheck.
Military.
You've got privates and corporals and you've got in E3s and E4s who are 28 years old and married with 2 kids who are going without paychecks right now. Well, actually, no, they did make their last paycheck because Trump was able to move money in the Pentagon budget, and Democrats opposed it. They almost took him to court to block him from doing it. But Bernie Sanders is worried about a second-term congressman out of New York who can't afford to go without a paycheck.
And that just shows the limits of his ability. I mean, the blinders,
the arrogance.
Like he's like, well, so there's some young members of Congress, young members of the oligarchy who can't afford this, right? It's just astonishing.
Caroline Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, replied to that on the X platform, by the way, and said, for the record, President Trump wants everyone to get paid because he wants to reopen the government. There is some signaling here.
When you lose Sarah Haynes,
yes.
Boy.
And by the way, Sarah Haynes
a
was
member
trying
of the
to help.
View.
She was trying to help.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, you don't understand. There is some indication that the end of this might be sooner rather than later, as we mentioned, now that the No Kings thing is over and they got all their optics and did you notice at the No Kings rallies nobody talked about the government shutdown? Nobody talked about funding Obamacare. Nobody talked about the fig leaf of an excuse that Democrats have used.
Because Larry, they're all retirees. They're not. None of these people are drawing.
True.
None of these people are drawing a salary. And the people who
I
are
got my Medicare.
Yeah, the people who are getting paid are being paid by Soros. They're not relying on a government paycheck. So those people who showed up, they don't even care about paychecks and government money. They don't care.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune made a signal yesterday that it might be winding down here, and the government shutdown could be coming to an end as early as the end of this week, as we predicted, because the rally's over now. We'll tell you exactly what he announced yesterday that gives us that hope. And we'll also explain to you why this is coming to an end. And it has nothing to do with Obamacare, and it has nothing to do with subsidies and insurance companies and all that stuff. It has all to do with politics, of course. And we'll tell you the key indications that are bringing Democrats back to the table to vote to open the government. That's coming up in just a moment. It's 5:43.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
As you know, the House of Representatives have been on indefinite recess now for several weeks as the Senate continues to grapple. Everyone keeps saying, we want a meeting with Mike Johnson. We want a meeting with Mike Johnson. And Johnson's like, we did our job. There's no reason for the House to be in session. He's still here. He's giving a daily press conference. And Chuck Schumer thinks that it's 1998 again, and he can get behind closed doors in a back room and work out a deal and strong-arm Republicans and intimidate them. And Johnson's like, no backroom deals. We're going to have an open vote. We've got a clean vote. We've already done our job. Well, Senate Majority Leader John Thune yesterday said that the government shutdown has gone on too long, and we need to start bringing back the Republican-controlled House to Washington to pass a new stopgap funding bill. House last voted on September 19th when it passed the clean funding bill, of course. And then because Democrats in the Senate had not voted on it, that's how we got our September 30th at midnight shutdown. Thune on Monday acknowledged the House may need to come back soon to pass a new government funding stopgap since the November 21 end date of the pending continuing resolution is now a month away, and that could trigger the next vote in the Senate for a new continuing resolution. And the inside baseball folks in D.C. think that there will be a wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge kind of agreement that if they open the government again, then they'll have a debate and a vote on health care. In fact, Jonathan Karl yesterday on This Week raised that issue with Hakeem Jeffries. You would think Hakeem Jeffries would jump at that solution, right?
What Senator Thune is offering there is to have a vote on a Democratic or bipartisan plan to extend those subsidies so people's premiums don't go up, as they will now dramatically in January, if the Democrats simply agree to vote to have that temporary funding extension. Is that something you would be willing to agree with? You get your vote on health care, but you also reopen the government.
I think what we've said is that we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill, which is the bill that they continue to bring before the Senate and that emerged from the House, if that bill guts the health care of the American people.
In other words, we like this shutdown. We want to keep the shutdown going. Don't give me a solution about the subsidies. No. We've got a talking point here.
It's also that we don't want to discuss health care.
Right.
We don't want to discuss it. We just want our way. There's no negotiation here. There's no discussion.
But also, can we just point out, he's just really bad at this. Hakeem Jeffries has proven himself over the last 3 weeks to be awful at media appearances, at rallies. His best work so far has been with the sombrero and the big black Mexican mustache. That he should just stick with that look and the soundtrack. So why is this all starting to wind down? We told you they had their rally. They captured their QR codes and their email addresses. They got people on their mailing list. They'll be able to keep going back to them. They got their optics. They gave John Cusack a reason to get out of his lakefront condo in Chicago. There's one other thing, though. Harry Enton, who crunches the numbers and polling at CNN, he explained it yesterday. It's very simple why this shutdown is about to end, because it hasn't worked. In fact, it's had the opposite effect on polling for Donald Trump. Listen.
That's exactly right. Turns out shutdowns are different the second time around when it comes to Donald Trump. Take a look here. You know, we speak about Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating. We're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of in terms of his.
There you go. 20 days into the shutdown, his net approval is actually up right now. Donald Trump has gotten more popular due to the Schumer shutdown and Hakeem Jeffries flailing about on the air. And all they've got, the Democrats, in terms of messaging, we saw it last week, was AOC and Bernie Sanders, and that ain't it, kid. That ain't it.
Yep.
So if you're on furlough, if you've been laid off, if you're working without pay or all those other calamities of the government shutdown, it looks like it's almost over. And it's because Democrats have been playing politics with you, and they've lost. It's 5:53.